Hello everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all doing excellent and that you're all having a great day. Don't forget to leave a like on the video. It's a free and easy way to support the channel. A little bit of a side note, I have allergies still, so if you hear me sniffling, I can't help it. I'm taking like 7 things at once. Nothing seems to really help, except for getting back to autumn. Without any further ado, let's jump right into it. A lot is happening. I'm sure you noticed. I'm sure you see. I'm sure you have the internet, so you're probably hearing it from multiple different sources as well. We are deeper in the mud than we thought that we actually were, just because of pure chaos and generalized insanity that we have going on. A lot of the cryptocurrency news space right now is revolving around like a seesaw effect. So really, and I figured at some point this would arrive, but here we are. So there's a lot of like really happy news and then a lot of like, okay. And then more really happy news when we've kind of been on a generalized trend as of late of, what do you call it? Like usually very optimistic news kind of across the board. I can also see the sentiment as well on Twitter and online. You know, like I was telling you before, you've probably seen a lot of it as well. I say it in every 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th video on both channels here and on Money Rules. And I wrote it recently on Twitter as well, and I was actually kind of shocked at the response that I got. I was telling people, and I mean, it depends on, I guess, how you're viewing the actual videos. Usually in the beginning of videos, sometimes in the middle, usually towards the end on both channels, I'll make sure to note and say something like, hey, as I've been saying for the last 2 years, make sure that you have a savings account. Make sure that you have some kind of emergency funds. Make sure that you have some kind of money that you're putting away. I've been a huge advocate for that for a long time, and it's mainly because of the uncertainty of life. And the last year hasn't really made it any better. And I saw a lot of people, I forgot what they were saying, but it was something along the lines of like, you're not bullish anymore. And it's like, me telling you to save money in case of an emergency is not me not being bullish. It's me looking at the news and like, hey, something is amiss. Nothing has been normal since around 2020. Not sure if anyone picked up on that. In major news, Oklahoma's attempt to become one of the first U.S. states to implement a Bitcoin reserve has come to an abrupt end. In a vote of 6-5, the Senate Revenue and Taxation Committee struck down the bill, House Bill 1203, also called the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act, despite late momentum and a surprise vote reversal from Senator Christy Gillispie. Okay, so we also just had news, this was a couple of days ago, about the actual voting that's going on and how this is also beginning to come to a head, if you will, for the April, May, and June time frame. This is the time frame that we were given, that we have been told by analysts since around February. That would be around the time when the cryptocurrency market would begin to shoot up, go up, aim towards the sky. This was also the time frame that we heard from, I believe his name is Dennis Porter, and a number of other people who've been keeping track of these things, that around spring and summertime would be when we heard the actual yay or nay about the actual proposals of a Bitcoin or a crypto reserve within the United States. April, May, and June is also the time frame for when we should be getting yes or no's from the US SEC regarding their gigantic amount of cryptocurrency ETF proposals. Someone wrote on Twitter that apparently there are only 14 different XRP ones. I saw multiple lists of 17, so apologies if I don't have the exact number correct for every single thing that's happening within this market at the exact same time. For whatever the reason might have been, and I probably know what it is, yeah, this was completely struck down, and apparently it's done. There is no more that is going to be done with this. It has to do with, for those of you who haven't caught on, a huge amount of economic uncertainty. Yeah, crazy, right? So one of the main ideas is that the cryptocurrency market is usually thriving right now. However, the idea of Bitcoin being a safe haven asset, as I mentioned before, remember when we're getting a lot of news again we've gotten in the last week of Bitcoin being digital gold and Bitcoin being this and these kinds of news stories. When it comes to like literally more fiscally conservative communities, Bitcoin is incredibly new to them. They know what it might be for, but if Bitcoin's not proving itself, especially as we continue to hear that more tariffs are happening. If you just missed the other new tariff, which is, I think, 245% against China. This was like a day or two ago, which is like, okay, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Bitcoin and the wider cryptocurrency market are now acting like tech stocks. That happened a couple of years ago as well. We seemingly decoupled, and now we're back at it once again. So basically, yeah, this was kind of struck down because of Bitcoin's relative volatility. I do wholeheartedly believe if Bitcoin was properly at around $180,000 right now, like it probably should be, this would have probably gone through with general ease. But much to the shock of a lot of people, this was struck down. Gillespie, who planned to vote no up until this afternoon, changed her mind after a couple of constituents reached out. A lawmaker changed their no vote to a yes because they heard from their Bitcoin constituents. This was tweeted by Dennis Porter, the CEO and co-founder of the Satoshi Action Fund, urging reserve advocates to keep pressure on legislators by saying your voice matters. Still, the effort fell short in Oklahoma. The no vote came from Republican Senator Todd Golliher, Chuck Hall, Brent Howard, and Dave Rader. Cool. Well, I mean, I told you only time would tell. This was definitely something that we were going to have to deal with at some point. It's the same exact thing like I told you for the US SEC and the actual applications for the cryptocurrency ETFs. And many of the ETF applications are for meme coins. If these have not held up, if any of those coins have had rug pulls, the SEC is probably going to say no to them. There's still, at the time of me making this video, a lot of hype around anything. And I'd understand that everyone might not, whatever, but how do I say this in a very nice way? A lot of times people tend to be confused, and I understand their confusion. It's because you have 1,000 things thrown at you. But if we constantly are going over Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP, it's not because I'm like, oh, those sound cool. No, it's because those are the ones that are in the news. We've kind of slipped back into this thing where a lot of other people realize that the coins that they've purchased are like literal garbage. I know it sounds like a joke, but like there's so many other altcoins that do absolutely nothing, and some other YouTuber told you to buy them, hold them. They're going to be the next big thing when they had no actual proof for that. So a lot of these coins are collapsing, and I'm seeing, again, and it's just the usual indication of market not go up, of people getting annoyed when I only talk about Bitcoin or when XRP is heavily in the news or there's a lot of Ethereum staking. It's just what the news is. These are the biggest coins out there. Of course, they're going to have a large amount of attention. There's still a huge energy focus right now on XRP ETFs. There was a news article, was it? Oh gosh, I don't know if it was Bloomberg or what was it. Anyway, talking about that XRP still looks like it is going to be the first coin to actually get a spot ETF, and then it looks like Solana and Litecoin are going to be down the line as well at some point. I see a lot of people talking about was it an options? There was some kind of other XRP ETF that wasn't really what the market wanted, or it's kind of like whenever we get like futures for something. There was also news a couple of days ago that I think some crypto exchange listed Solana, XRP, and something else futures, and everyone was like, why isn't the price going up? Futures are denominated in US dollars. They have nothing to do with the actual asset themselves, and even when they do, people use futures to short the coin. They use it to bet against the coin and actually cause the coin's price to go down. That's why futures are garbage, if you didn't know. Yeah, that's the Oklahoma news. I would assume in the next 4 or 5 weeks, we should be hearing from a number of other states out there as to if they're going to say yes. But brace yourself if Bitcoin, and I've been saying it the last couple of videos, and I think it always needs to be said, you have to be realistic about all of this. There's a reason why I've been saying what I've been saying over the course of multiple years, and why I tell you that analysts are saying stuff, because there seems to be a lot of confusion in the air. We've been going over this since 2018, and I know it peeves people a lot of times to realize that you put your money into Toenail coin or into Pepe coin or into something else. It's just part of it. Once again, a reiteration: do not put money into this market that you cannot afford to lose. I haven't said that in about a month and a half because I thought it was self-explanatory. I also have to say that on both channels as well. Make sure that at the end of the month, after your rent is paid, your water, gas, electric, your whatever other bills you might have, after all those things are paid, any other money that you might have left over that would have gone to a candy bar or a new CD, I don't know what people are buying, use that to put it into crypto. Don't over leverage. Don't get yourself into debt. It doesn't make any sense. I shouldn't have to go over this all the time, but well, that's the Oklahoma news. And yeah, let's move on. Also in seesaw news, so we went down, now we're going to go back up. Semler Scientific is apparently ramping up their Bitcoin strategy with a $500 million securities offering and a new loan agreement with Coinbase. This is like the third or fourth one that I've seen in the last couple of days. There's been more Metaplanet news, Semler Scientific. Another one that I can't pronounce is like Jabalabala. It starts with a J, and I was like, why would you name your company that? They're back at it once again in the news. If you also missed some of the MicroStrategy news, there's a gigantic trend of companies specifically issuing debt against themselves, issuing some kind of a security something so that they can buy more Bitcoin. On one side, if we can be honest with ourselves, one side of the equation has become very bearish on the cryptocurrency market. And this is namely retail investors, or people who aren't institutions, people who aren't multi-billionaire, trillionaire, millionaires, billionaires, like that kind of thing. There's kind of a generalized lull coming from them. I told you before, I can see it on Twitter by people's responses, how angry they are, how positively they might talk about stuff on any given day, any week, any year. The other side of it are institutions who are still constantly buying. It is a very weird dynamic to see out in the open. That normally by this time, we would have a slew of retail investors entering the market, rising prices, the cryptocurrency market continuing to thrive, and all these kinds of things. However, at the same time, as prices fall, stagnate, or go sideways, we're getting an unprecedented amount of news from these corporations and these companies who are buying. One can only assume that they're doing it because prices are lower and therefore they can get in at lower prices. But it always leads to that kind of question. Do they know something that we don't? Is something happening behind the scenes? Why would you issue an additional $500 million against your company just to buy more Bitcoin if prices are going sideways, or if something is amiss or awry, or tariffs or blah, 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 whatever the case might be? Public medical device maker Semler Scientific has filed a registration statement with the US SEC to offer up to $500 million in securities with intent to use some of the proceeds to buy more Bitcoin. In an S3 statement, the NASDAQ-listed tech firm said it may sell common stock, preferred stock, Debt securities, warrants, wow, and units over time. The proceeds will be used primarily for general corporate purposes, including the acquisition of Bitcoin, according to the filing. Yeah, this hasn't slowed down one little tiny bit. We are in a very weird market, and I think more people are coming to grips with it as we move further on into the year. As I stated before, only time will tell, but by the time we get to midsummer, end of July, early August, we should have a clear indication as to where this market is definitely going to go. At the same exact time, there's a lot of weird discussions still about governments buying Bitcoin, about institutions buying Bitcoin, and it might just be, as I stated in another video, it might just be the greatest magic trick of all time. Figuring how to get people out of markets, figuring how to get people completely away from crypto so that you can buy more as a government or an institution. Yeah, once again, we'll see what ends up taking place. But this was the more popular news story that we have today from Semler Scientific, trying to purchase or get another $500 million, and they're going to throw some of that into Bitcoin. Yeah, let's move on. In news that people found great or optimistic, I'm not really sure, kind of just annoyed me in some sort of way because I personally have a very clear, just go do it attitude. I hate procrastination. I hate waiting to the last minute. It drives me absolutely insane. When I was in high school, you know how like teachers would give you my teachers. I had one teacher who would tell us on a Monday that we had to write an essay by Friday. And everyone in the class would wait until Thursday evening. Do you know when I handed in my essay? It was Tuesday. Yeah, I would do it that night. I would stay up. I would hand it in to him. He would actually be surprised every single time. He would lightly correct some of it. Hey, this isn't so and so and so. And I would re-hand it back in on Friday. I hate waiting for stuff. If you can do it, just go do it. I know this might be a completely different behemoth in the room, as we're not talking about writing an essay, but it's kind of like whenever Ethereum or Cardano is hey, we're going to have an upgrade. And then they're it's happening in October. It's happening in December. It's happening in February. April. Yeah, someone said April, right? Cool, let's do April. Oh, I think we spelled April wrong. It's spelled June. It drives me completely nuts because it's just biding time for whatever the reason might actually be. In popular news today, United States Representative, his name is Bo Hines, has highlighted the myriad of ways individuals can accumulate Bitcoin and establish it. Nope, that's also incorrect. Whoever wrote this article, that's not exactly what went on. I'll tell you exactly. Okay. And establish it as a key component of their reserve assets. His remark underscores the accessibility and diverse yada yada, so and so and so. Amazing, fantastic. Here's a little tweet from Anthony Pompliano right here. Amazing. Representative Hines emphasized that acquiring Bitcoin is no longer limited to a select few, pointing to the numerous platforms and methods. Where's the other part? Hines lightly touched upon a variety of strategies individuals can employ. No, this isn't exactly what happened. Long story short, I can't find that in the article or whatever the other articles were. Basically, Bo Hines came forward to talk about how the United States could begin to accumulate more Bitcoin. Some of the ideas that have been thrown out there is for the United States to sell gold. There are now proposals for the United States to create Bitcoin bonds, to literally create bonds based off of Bitcoin, and the amount that sells from the bonds, they then use that money to actually buy more. What was the other thing? There was something else really odd that was also just proposed. Oh gosh, what was it? Oh gosh, I'm not going to find it, am I? Okay. There was something else that popped up from Bo Hines when he was talking about how the US is going to accumulate more Bitcoin. He was no, there's tons and tons of ways that we can do it. We found at least 15 ways, blah, blah, blah. And I sat there because I was we'll do it. Simple. if you're going to talk about, you found, so the proposals that we've been given have been that basically they're trying to figure out ways, or have figured out ways, that would not be a tax burden on the American people, if you will. Basically, they would be acquiring Bitcoin in as a myriad of ways, if you will, to basically get to that 1 million Bitcoin. And I forgot, there was one really weird proposal. It wasn't stocks. I know bonds. It was the gold, but there was something else that like really stuck out. And I was like, really? Okay. So that was also proposed for the United States as well. And it's just more of a do it. What are you waiting for? Once again, maybe it's just me being hyper impatient. I'm sure someone's writing that in the comment section right now. But I always have this idea that if you can do it right now, just do it. Why do you think I keep saying like to make like a savings account? It'll take you 14 and a half seconds if you have online banking. It literally it's not a thing at all. Yeah. So cool. Awesome. A lot of people, I'm going to try and find the other article and I'll bring it to you in another video where he specifically is talking about what the US is going to do. And I was like, well, just do it. There's no need to have discussions about it. Like none of us are in the White House. We don't know what's going on. If you're having these backdoor discussions and you figured out something, just do it. That's the Bo Hines news. Fantastic. And yeah, let's move on. Okay, seesaw time. Whee! So this is also incredibly logical with everything that's been going on, and also because of the cryptocurrency market. Apparently, local governments in China are reportedly seeking ways to offload, to sell seized crypto while facing challenges due to the country's ban on crypto trading and exchanges. The absence of clear rules on how authorities should manage seized cryptocurrency has led to inconsistent and opaque approaches, with some lawyers fearing could open the door to corruption, according to a report from Reuters. You heard that correctly. Apparently, many places within China are now beginning to sell their crypto. You know how the US got 200,000 Bitcoin, if you missed that, since like 2012? Basically, any website that existed, that was selling stuff or promoting stuff or whatever that the US deemed illegal, many of these websites ran on Bitcoin. It was like the first true viewing that Bitcoin could be used as a medium of exchange. These websites were shut down, and subsequently all the Bitcoin on these websites were taken. And the US at one point had like 300 something thousand Bitcoin, and they sold a huge portion of it to, what's this guy's name? I can never, it's not, he's Tim, I'm pretty sure Tim Draper. I think it's Tim Draper. In like the mid 2010s, he was buying a huge amount of it, and then at some point the US stopped. So the coins that were held by the DOJ that got shifted into the Bitcoin reserve were basically all those coins that the US essentially got for free as they were doing justice or something along those lines. At the same time, many other countries were doing the same thing. They found other websites that were illegal, blah, 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 blah. China was one of them, and this is how China has so many, publicly has so much Bitcoin in a couple of these wallets. I think their number is also supposed to be near 200,000 Bitcoin, but that number hasn't been updated in a long time because the government is also mining Bitcoin themselves. So I assume, logically, they have other wallet addresses. However, China's economy, the same as every other economy, is not doing too well right now. Like none of them. Like once again, the 2008-2009 crisis was never fixed, and the 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024 crisis was not fixed either, with many economists believing that we are Tokyo drifting into a recession, mainly now because of the tariffs. I don't know who didn't know that part. But it looks like a lot of people are trying to figure out ways to like get money from a lot of their other investments. And guess who has a lot of crypto? Chinese local governments are using private companies to sell seized cryptocurrencies in offshore markets in exchange for cash to replenish public coffers. This was reported by Reuters, citing transactions and court documents. The local governments reportedly held approximately 15,000 Bitcoin, worth 1.4 billion at the end of 2023. And the sales have been a significant source of income. Yeah, 1.4 billion US dollars is a huge amount of money. China holds, yeah, there we go. China holds an estimated 194,000 Bitcoin, worth approximately $16 billion, and is the second largest nation Bitcoin holder besides the United States. Then had a bunch of economic professors talking about it, yada, 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 so on and so forth. With people continuously saying that crypto trading is banned, which it isn't, and is and isn't, as long as you go through over the counter. But I assume with larger transactions like this, if you're trying to sell off $180 million worth of something, you can't walk into a corner store and go, hey, you guys got cash? Because I got some Bitcoin. Yeah, this made unpopular news, as you might have imagined. Anytime that we get some kind of news that a government is selling Bitcoin. We also had this last year with Germany, and there was another country who also sold off some of their Bitcoin as well. You have to understand and try to remember that at like the basis of all of this is like fiat. They're doing what they can to like keep fiat afloat, and they really, once again, this is why we continue to live in general disarray when it comes to a lot of these things, is because Bitcoin is for the people. Bitcoin is meant for the public and the general population to have a way to get away from the old system. So when you have governments buying, holding, using Bitcoin, at some point they might be fickle and saying, I want to get rid of it. And then we have to go and rotate back to the idea that Bitcoin's for the people, because people get very excited, once again, when a government buys, holds, or a corporation, but they don't care about Bitcoin. Do you understand that? Remember, I keep saying every couple of videos, I'm like, do any of you actually care about Bitcoin? I can hear some of you saying no, and this usually ends up being the problem. We have a system to get away from the old system. We no longer have to worry about the corruption of governments or them selling or debasing their own currencies, because we have Bitcoin. Its supply is finite. There's enough for everyone on the planet. But when we get news, as we did, I think a day or two ago, in case you missed it, MicroStrategy said that they have a lot of debt obligations because they've been selling debt against their company to buy Bitcoin. They said if Bitcoin's price doesn't go up, guess what they're going to have to do? They're going to have to sell Bitcoin, because they don't actually care about Bitcoin or the system. It's about them making money and having control. And until people figure that out, this entire experiment is not going to work. Yeah, see, I know, it's crazy, right? Well, fingers still crossed that we get 1 billion people on the planet who realize what's going on and they enter the cryptocurrency market. Bitcoin is mainly for institutions and corporations and governments at this point. So we'll see what happens in the future. But my idea of this like crypto utopia about a decade ago has flown into the wind because of stuff like this. So people were very upset and were making fun of the country and yada yada. And it's like, well, yeah, you can try and make fun of them, but they have 200,000 Bitcoin. If they decide to sell all of it, well, guess what happens to the market? So, you know, that's why Bitcoin's for the people and not for the governments. Well, yeah, we're probably going to have a couple. I mean, I assume at this point, unless something changes, we're going to have a lot more seesawing news going around just because of general confusion. Confusion's a very nice word that we have going on in the world right now. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.